Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you're joining us today. I'm Jim Barnhart, Assistant to the Administrator in USAID's Bureau for Resilience and Food Security, as well as the Deputy Coordinator for Development for Feed the Future. It's great to speak with you. I'm excited that Feed the Future is able to host this virtual conference today. There's a stellar lineup of speakers and activities, and I'm looking forward to a fruitful discussion. The ICTforAg conference brings together two topics that are central to USAID's development activity: agriculture and digital technology. The hard work of farming is often overlooked in our modern age, and having the right resources and support makes all the difference when you're out in the field, particularly for smallholder farmers for whom digital tools can be a game changer. For example, digital communication simplifies transactions and provides a way to share information quickly and safely. Easy and accurate access to weather forecasting helps to inform appropriate times to plant or to harvest crops, and early warning and predictive analytics have been helpful in addressing some aspects of the locust infestation we're confronting now in East Africa. We know how important these features are in the middle of a global pandemic, and I can't overstate how much agriculture and food security have been hit by COVID-19. The second-order shocks to global food supply chains have been devastating. More than 100 million people are at risk of chronic hunger, and the pandemic has rolled back years of development progress. Women have been disproportionately impacted by these shocks. Prior to the pandemic, their potential to be powerful agents of change were already hampered by limited access to markets and information. This gender divide will widen if we don't take concerted efforts now to create more open, inclusive, and digital ecosystems. And that's why USAID is focusing on making it easier for smallholder farmers, many of whom are women, and accompanying private sector companies to do business, both during the pandemic and after. Digital technology is the key to achieving this vision. We're working towards this vision through our digital strategy, which the agency launched back in April, and it maps out how we are prioritizing digital in our humanitarian and development programs going forward. In short, the strategy is a testament to how much we believe in the potential of digital technologies. And for food security, this strategy has big implications. The people we serve aren't just seeing our assistance in the form of food and water donations or governance programs. They're seeing it on their mobile devices. I'm talking about apps and tools that reduce crop loss, decrease herd death, increase yields, share price and other information, prevent storage, and increase incomes. We have evidence from our impact assessments that linking smallholder farmers to digital technologies can increase household income by 20 to 40% due to larger yields and better access to markets. I'll repeat that. Bringing digital technology to smallholder farmers can increase household income by 20 to 40%. These are enormous wins that produce long-term benefits for smallholder farmers around the world. We've already seen the impact of digital in agriculture practice. One of USAID's programs in Honduras, called the Coffee Alliance, developed a virtual training program to assist 5,400 smallholder farmers who were facing mobility restrictions during the pandemic. The digital channels provided technical assistance to improve coffee production and business practices. And when we looked at the statistics afterwards, we found that digital tools doubled the number of women able to access services through the Coffee Alliance. This is the power of digital at work. Sustainable long-term impact in the form of digital technology is just one way we empower countries on their journeys to self-reliance. And these journeys cannot happen without strengthening digital ecosystems that are open, inclusive, and secure. And today we will have important discussions on how we can achieve these goals. I'm excited to see what we can accomplish together. Thank you.
Throughout ICTforAg 2020, you'll be hearing stories about disruptions, how we've all encountered them, how we've tried to overcome them, and how we've built digital tools and technologies to help us become more resilient to the next set of disruptions. Our first keynote for today is going to be about digital responses to COVID disruptions. We'll be hearing from USAID Missions, agripreneurs, researchers, and individuals on the ground to learn how they've used digital tools and technologies to overcome some of the very clear disruptions that COVID has created. So stay tuned.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to our webinar on digital responses to COVID disruptions, ICTforAg. So I think today we would want to hear from four amazing folks, including myself, on how they responded to COVID-19, opportunities that came out of it, challenges that came out of it in the food and ag sector, and in particular, what they are doing regarding a digital response. So I am Alpha Senon, founder and executive director of YFarm, and I will just quickly introduce the names of the three other panelists. So we also have Miss Esther Omosa, let's give a wave. And then we have Mr. Wamala Fawaz. And then we have Miss Stella Weaver. All right, great. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, I will be running through a short presentation on agricultural education and innovation in response to COVID-19. As I mentioned, I'm the founder and executive director of YFarm. We help youth farmers. We are based in Trinidad and Tobago in the lovely Caribbean. So what is YFarm? I'll give a quick synopsis of the work that we do at YFarm. YFarm tackles that problem, that global problem that exists in how do we get young people involved and engaged in food and nutrition security? How do we get them contributing? We all know of the problem. Older farmers existing, the younger ones are not taking over the sector. Of course, that is changing now, but we still have to develop strategies to be able to ensure that we have young farmers who's gonna feed us in the future. So what has YFarm done? We have created agri-edutainment strategies that allows for young people to be engaged, for them to have fun, for them to be entertained in learning and educating themselves about agriculture and agricultural opportunities, of course. So we promote agri-entrepreneurship. We promote agricultural product development. We promote agrotourism and so many other things, right? So now pre-COVID-19, right? We were conducting many workshops, many training sessions. This one that I have on the screen here is called Agripreneur Mastermind Program Amp It Up, which is really our flagship program. And we were finding TNT's Trinidad and Tobago Next Stop Agripreneur. Real engaging sessions, challenges for the young people, daily routines, daily challenges, etc., and learning about developing their agribusinesses, right? Of course, top cash prizes for the winners. So this is one program that we did pre-COVID-19. Another program was our Agriman Adventures Agriculture Kids School Tour, where we would literally go to schools, right? And of course, all these programs had to come to a pause in the amidst COVID-19. And then came COVID-19, right? Folks started to plant in every and anything possible, including me. I started farming in my sneakers, right? That's showing people different opportunities that exist because everyone wanted to grow something because food security became a buzz. It became a challenge, but as well as it became the most popular thing to do, at least in my country, right? And of course, we started to promote hydroponics farming. I promoted it as digital agriculture, using PVC, no soil, water, and nutrients to be able to grow your food, right? So what we had to do immediately was find ways and means to get young people trained, right, digitally. So we use the most basic forum, WhatsApp, to be able to create a group and pass on this information to people. So to date, we have over 125 participants, and it's called Plant Your Plate group, right? And Plant Your Plate simply means growing what you want to consume on your plate. So we sort of take it a step back and tell folks to look at your plate and grow in your backyard how you could contribute towards your plates, right? And this group is basically an extension group, because we have folks who's now starting to grow something, asking us, what is the problem with this? How to do this? This pest is eating my plant. How can I fix this, right? And of course, we had to promote value addition. So this here shows me from the crop to the shop. We created what we call a Callaloo pack, and it's packaged for the store. And many young people then came to us to find ways and means to sell their produce. So what we did is that we created an online platform. It's called Dash in Your Doorstep. The above logo, the Market Movers, is our partner company as well too, right? And we work with them all, throughout this entire process. So we create a marketplace online and we deliver to your doorstep, right? This was one of the opportunities for us that came out of COVID-19. And young people now have this platform in our community to sell their produce online, right? And of course, we had to be able to continue our education by doing short videos online. We partnered with the UNDP, United Nations Development Program in Trinidad and Tobago, and the FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization, to do short agreement videos that educate children. And if you go on YouTube, you'll actually find these videos, UNDP Grow Gardening Initiative. And it's relevant and it's applicable to anyone across the world, because planting and growing your own food, it remains the same no matter where you go. Different things is because of climate and weather, yes, but the same principles apply, right? And pre-COVID-19 as well, we of course have our Agriman Adventures, where we use comic books to be able to inspire our younger folks. And when COVID-19 appeared, we had to find a way to promote digital agriculture, again, using our comic books, because children now have to understand what is digital agriculture. So what we did, we launched our AgriBots, and we created AgriBots as a sort of robot for agriculture. And of course, we done our comic book that basically gives insights and a real fun and engaging way to get children to understand digital agriculture, because that's the world that we live in now, right? So AgriBots was created. AgriBots is already creating a buzz, and our comic book is amazing with education about digital agriculture that is relevant to now. And that is what we do as well, right? Our comics are not just comics talking about random stories, but very relatable to what's happening in the world right now, right? So what's next for us? The School of Agriculture, where we will be utilizing digital labs. And we have partnered up with Thought for Food to create our School of Agriculture on their digital platform, right? And we haven't launched this as yet, but our pilot will be being launched in February of 2021. That really combines all our learnings, our edutainment, our agripreneurship, digital agriculture. Also, one of our important modules would be food and heritage, connecting people to that heritage as it relates to food, and of course, youth engagement, right? So those are some quick responses that YFAM conducted over within COVID-19, and we are educating the future in the present. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alpha, for that great presentation. Just two questions, quick ones. Since the start of the movement or the idea, have you been able to see changes in consumption at household level? And what do those changes look like? One. The next one is, what role did the parent or the elderly play to make this idea successful? How were they involved? Thank you.
Yeah, great questions, Esther. Since the start of our work in, I would say, YFAM was launched 5 years ago, we have seen tremendous impact at the household level where it pertains to, one, children getting more engaged in backyard gardening, and then they wanting to plant what they eat and eat what they plant, So we have seen parents come to us and tell us after like some of our agreement intervention and say, what have you done with my child? You know, this child now wants to consume vegetables. This child now wants to tell me, Mommy, don't waste the vegetables. Let's make a compost heap, right? Because these are all the things that agreement promotes and teaches. And agreement tells the children to be responsible. Don't waste one grain of rice, right? And simple messages like that and catchy messages like that is what really impacts these children, you know? We even get folks being able to, you know, to keep telling their parents, because agreement's slogan is, plant one tree, you will eat for free. This will guarantee food security. And children are now going home telling their parents, Mommy, plant one tree, eat for free. You know, and these are some of the impacts that you get parents telling you, even writing us on our social medias or sending little pictures or little video stars and saying that these children, because of the superhero character, you know, and children love powerful characters, right? And it communicates to these children in a really effective manner. They are now really, really energized to want to make that difference. And of course, now it's for all the other supporting, creating an other enabling environment that they could really take up the action that agreement prescribe them to take up, you know. So yeah, so that's a really good question. And then pertaining to your second question, you know, the role that parents and the elders have taken up, you know, a lot of parents really supported us, I would say, in our program by, for example, when we started having agreement birthday parties, right? And, you know, parents really encourage their children and encourage agreement to come to the birthday parties and have an agreement theme, right? And besides that, you know, supporting us by buying comic books and having the camps and whatnot was really, 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 really supportive in continuing our work. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Actually, looking at your presentation, I think for behavior change to happen, and myself having worked on behavior change for a while now, and targeting mainly adults, I see a lot of potential in targeting the young kids because, you know, they haven't really sort of formed their behavior. So if you're able to change it when they're much younger, then it becomes much easier to, you know, sustain that. So I see this as an opportunity for sustainable behavior change, other than, you know, starting to change me and you were already, you know, sort of developed. And
yeah, I mean,
thank you very much.
Yeah, just to add to that before we move on to you, you know, the transformative years of conditioning one's mind is birth to 12, you know, and scientists has proven that. So when you pass that 12-year-old stage, it's very difficult to sort of change your mind and perception. Not saying it isn't possible, but it's a little more difficult. So we have to promote it at the early level so that they know that agriculture, food security, food sustainability is high within their choices as they move on in life, you know? Yeah, so thank you. So I think, Esther, we're going to go over to you now. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm going to share experiences from Kenya, and my presentation is titled The Impact of COVID-19 on Livestock Value Chains in Kenya. Why we want to share this presentation is we want to understand how we can use data and digital technology to facilitate COVID-19 recovery in livestock markets. So a bit of the background about the program that we are implementing and where the study was done. This is a USAID funded, Feed the Future funded program called Accelerated Value Chain Development Program, a 5-year program that is implemented in Kenya in 21 out of 47 counties. It has different agricultural value chains, and livestock value chain is one of those that is implemented in 5 counties in the northern part of Kenya. The northern part of Kenya is characterized by, it's mainly a pastoral setup. These are, as we know, pastoralists move from place to place in search of food and pasture. There is a poor communication and road network. The communities there are predisposed to frequent shocks, right from drought, diseases and more diseases and livestock diseases, floods, and recently locusts that we saw in the eastern part of Africa. and the phone ownership is relatively poor, as well as the coverage in terms of network or the signal is also poor. The study's aim was to assess the effect of the pandemic on the livelihoods and the food systems in general along the value chain, the livestock value chain. And therefore, the approach was mainly a cross-sectional survey that we conducted about 2 months into COVID, when COVID was declared not really an emergency, but in Kenya when the lockdown and other prevention measures took in place. So on 13th of March, that's when Kenya took the measures to start containing COVID when we first recorded the first case. So we did have an interview about over 2,000 actors, and we had a response rate of 94%, which was really good compared when you look at the characteristics of the area. And we also had the quantitative data collected from household survey, but we also did qualitative data by, emailing a questionnaire to different key informants, ranging from the government officials to program or project NGO officers who could respond, and they mailed it back to the study team. And just a mention of some of the COVID-19 control measures that the government of Kenya put that specifically affected the northern Kenya was the closure of some livestock markets. This was in a bid to deal with the social distancing. There was also a curfew that was put from about 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. Therefore, this reduced, initially started from 7, and this reduced the time people could do business. And along the counties or inter-county, there were some borders that were closed. For example, the border to Somalia, because the northern part covers Somalia and Ethiopia, and also other inter-county borders. And there were several checks which made the food go bad, and in some cases, people were discouraged from doing the kind of business. So some of the findings, a highlight of some of the findings, we did see a decrease in the purchasing power, partly because there was an increase in food prices because of the supply disruption. We also saw the income of different actors reducing. This was right from the agrovets, the people in the slaughterhouses. And we also saw a decrease in the sales or volumes that were traded with the livestock and across the different species. This was cattle, camel, goats, and sheep. There was a steady decline in the amount of volumes traded. We also saw, as a result, a reduced income at the household level, and also the livestock prices, the unit price of a livestock as species reduced. As we can see the graph on the left, there was a reduction in the amount of meat sold, steadily decreasing from March onwards. This also, of course, has implications on the consumption at the household level. We also saw the variety in terms of diversity of food reducing at household level, where people consumed more of the starchier staples that were more affordable and less of the nutrient-dense fruits and vegetables and animal source foods. And then reduction in quantity in terms of the plate servings, but also the number of meals per day, where some households reduced from 3 meals per day to 2 or less. So how has the data helped us to recover? The findings of this study did enable different responses by different actors, and just mention a few of those. For the livestock sector or the livestock market, we did see an urgent need, because the recommendations were that we needed to open some of those markets that were closed, because this was a key source of livelihood for the communities. And therefore, the government went to develop a standard operating procedures for operating in the markets and opening the markets. And currently, as we speak, all the markets are open, all those that were closed. And the county governments also increased funding or resources towards livestock and trading within the livestock sector. The other actor was the integration of partners. So in the northern part, we have different NGOs and different development partners. So we did see a great sequencing, integration, and layering, which is mainly different people adding on benefits or support to the communities, so to increase the impact, and this saw a success in terms of protecting the assets. In terms of nutrition, we saw a sort of integration between nutrition sensitive and nutrition specific interventions that looked at addressing both the immediate and underlying causes of malnutrition. In terms of the different support that is given, we saw a widening of coverage and deepening of that coverage in terms of food distribution, and also the radio messaging that went to reach more population, to pass the message on prevention, but also on how to eat properly and how to get support. The opportunities that data has for future support, we are saying this is not all that we could get, but we think that we need more data on pasture so that the pastoralists can know where grazing lands are rejuvenated and where they are depleted. We also need more information on livestock disease outbreaks. Of course, there is disease surveillance that is ongoing, but it was disrupted with the COVID-19. So we need more of this fast-tracked to inform timely response. Also, data on livestock prices, which should be more disaggregated to specific locations. And something that may help is to explore on how we can do e-livestock trading, because then this can reduce the interaction and maintain the social distancing. Last but not least, more importantly, we do need data on consumption and nutritional status, because then it will help us know how the communities are consuming and how we can improve the markets to work for nutrition at the household level. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, hi Esther, great presentation. Great work being done, and I'm glad that it's reaching the ground level, it's reaching the farmers. I'm always concerned about that the work that we do, it reaches those that has to contribute the most in growing our food, and rearing our animals. I'm interested to hear more thoughts on e-livestock trading. Like, I don't know how much more thoughts there is on that just yet, but that caught my attention.
Thank you very much. It's just a recommendation. So we are trying to see, there is a lot of data that is being collected on livestock. So one of the things we are exploring is how do we provide this information to different actors, so for the buyer and for the seller. So information that is specific to livestock, that this is the cost of a camel, for example, in this region. This is the cost of a cow in this region, so that the interested buyers then can come. It could be individuals or groups or organized associations to do that purchasing. So it's a long shot, it's a recommendation, but we think if we can have that e-livestock trading, would be one way of addressing the social distance issues, but it will also increase efficiency, and we know information is power, so people can access information for their decision making.
So do you think it might be like via like an application, like an app, or just like a WhatsApp group, or?
I'm not very sure, probably an app. So currently in the current project that I'm supporting, we are supporting the county governments to do disease surveillance, and also a small component of collecting market livestock data. So this data goes to the central server at the county government office, and then they use it to decide or to make decisions appropriately. So I think such a system would be one way, but if an app is made, it can benefit, but it may not benefit the pastoralists more directly, unless it is made to be very user-friendly because of the high literacy level, the poor coverage of the signal, and as well as power, you know. So IT sort of brings those inherent infrastructural challenges.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. I think Umela had a question.
I think I have a question. I was just wondering, how exactly were you collecting that data? Was it during field work, or was it remote, something like that?
Thanks. I forgot to mention that we did collect this data. The household survey was purely on phone. And that's why we got a 94% response rate, which we thought was good. And we attribute that to mobilization that we did. We did speak to the local chiefs, local village elders to mobilize the households and also get the phone numbers. So at some point we had to book appointments that on this day I'll be calling you. So let's try to have your phone charged or within you so you're able to answer. So this was purely by phone. We did the numerator training on phone, not on phone really, but virtually. We had a Zoom meeting, Teams meetings, and did a training. But we did put the numerators in clusters, put like 5 of them in a room in a hotel. So there's social distancing and where there's good network and where they could interact. And then now they had a list of the people and the phones to interview. So some of the challenges probably would be issues around ethical approval and probably somebody, you know, the northern part is purely, I mean, mostly patriarchal. So phones would at times be owned by a man. So if you wanted to ask information about the diet or nutrition, then a man may not be better placed to answer that. So those were some of the issues that, of course, the limitations associated to that.
Thank you so much, Esther. It's a wonderful presentation. Personally, yes, e-livestock farming was very interesting and it's a good thing to explore. However, I was also thinking that I have not seen probably the point of where if we apply by understanding, was there a part within the investigation that you are seeking to understand the needs of the pastoralists? Are they interested in having the space to graze, move from one place to another, or they want to be able to sell off, yeah, in a free market environment? So in that sense, we would get to look at probably value addition, because when we talk about in environments like e-livestock farming and everything, I'm already having a picture where I have to add value to a product that I'm getting to the pastoralists, from the pastoralists. So I don't know if that concept of understanding before you apply, you understand the pastoralists' demands, yeah, before we can get to apply any of these interventions using data. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stella, for that question. Yes, I mean, this is a proposal that we had, and for livestock, most of the time, livestock pastoralists sell their livestock whole as you know, full live animals actually. So that would be one of the strengths, that they would rather deal with live animals. But I think I like the idea you're mentioning that we probably need to see how we can value add so that one to increase the value and of course the shelf life. But I think this is something that we need to for sure explore more and see how best this e-livestock trading can be done. Thank you.
So thank you so much. I'm very glad to be a part of the ICTforAg. And it's great that we have a platform for youth mappers and showcasing how they've been able to build resilience against COVID-19. So yes, so I'm Stella Maris Nakachawavamuno. I'm a geomatics engineer. I'm a Youth Mappers Regional Ambassador for the Eastern region, and I was the supervisor for the Rapid Response Project that we did in Uganda as Youth Mappers. So Youth Mappers is a network of universities that seeks to, that is funded by the USAID, and its looking at cultivating a generation of young leaders around the world, around the globe, a community that can build resilience and define their world by mapping it. So it is a network of very many university clubs. New are coming on board and those that are already existing around the world. And then over 5,000 student mappers, and then over 200 chapters, over 50 countries in Africa, in South America, in North America, in Europe and Asia. And it includes, it's a platform for undergraduate students, postgraduate students, and then PhD students. And then our slogan or our motto is we go by, we don't just build maps, but we build the mappers. As an environment, as youth mappers, necessarily is to look at how to empower the young generation, how leaders can be formed, yeah, using geospatial technology, using web-based open source like OpenStreetMap. So the pandemic or the outbreak of COVID-19 was such a platform for the youth mappers to showcase or to come and intervene, because this is a moment of humanitarian crisis that required a response from each and everyone all over the world, from governments, from individuals, and everyone around the world, to see how we can safeguard ourselves, but also build resilience in our communities, because the rate of vulnerability was going very high. So the network of chapters is very large. I can only tell that the story began to impact at around March, when most of the countries were actually on lockdown, and we knew now that students were not in university, they were not going to school. People were working from home. There was limited contact and interaction among people, because those were the messages in the different countries. Putting on masks, an indicator of silence, please be quiet, do not speak because you might spread the virus. It was a time to imagine how best we can use digital technology to respond in such a crisis. And for us, the platform of OpenStreetMap that we have, we believe is the greatest tool for us to act and provide. And in what way? By providing data to environments, to organizations and bodies that really needed to respond quickly in terms of resources, in terms of risk communication, in terms of empowering communities not to feel so lost and left out in this time of the pandemic. So we are together, although we are apart. So around March, around April 2020, we had almost a mobilization of all chapters across the globe, yeah, looking for how best, because the impact was not only on food, the impact was not only on water, but it was on health as well. The other ailments and illnesses that where people were not able to access hospitals because these hospitals were closed and cut off to take care of COVID-19 patients, especially in our country. So our responsibility was to look out for the clinics, the pharmacies, the doctors, individual doctors in those different environments, and even hospitals themselves, to put them on the map and support organizations that are seeking to provide response, or even individuals that use these digital apps, yeah, could have access to this information. People who are above and can access and use Google can also access such information through OpenStreetMap. So we mobilized all chapters and crowdsourced and engaged everyone to ensure that they at least identified each and every health site in their environment, any that you knew of. So this was basically a global necessity. I did not have to know Kenya, but as long as I knew a place in Kenya and I knew the hospital, it was my responsibility to make sure that I tag that hospital and it's accessible. So in Uganda, I could tell with that just a picture that over 3,000 health sites were put on the map, on OpenStreetMap, which was very, very interesting and very important for the population basically that is seeking out health in the times of the crisis. And then around May, it came to the realization that still, as there is need to communicate about the risk and also to provide resources, because at that time, governments like Uganda had staged people indoors and was working on providing for food, basic medication, masks, and sanitizers. So it was kind of tricky to understand how best the exercise would be done. And here we thought that if we utilize a platform like OpenStreetMap, we can identify households. And when we identify households, we can provide statistics to organizations like the Uganda Red Cross that were at the front line, make maps for them and help them move swiftly and fast enough, but also help them understand which districts and which areas were highly at risk so they could act in time. So Youth Mappers, or Geo Youth Mappers, the chapter in Makerere University that my colleague will talk about, in Map Uganda and the humanitarian OpenStreetMap, partnered and chose to work towards achieving this, providing data for risk response, for risk communication, response, and surveillance in the border districts. And that was the initiative particularly done by the Youth Mappers in Uganda and the OpenStreetMap community in Uganda and the humanitarian OpenStreetMap as the supporter. So the districts were identified, and it was known that the most affected areas at the point in time were the border districts or border towns. These towns that were close or had official borders, but also had porous borders where people can easily sneak in through Congo, through Kenya, through Tanzania without necessarily being identified through Rwanda. So we identified the 25 border towns. There were about 27, only that 2 were already mapped. So 25 towns that did not have any information, no building, no road identified. So we identified these towns, we mapped them out, and we were able to collect about 200,000 buildings over, yeah. And then about 5,000 kilometers of roads in those border towns, and then waterways, and then very many other amenities. Like we came saying the health was already added onto the map. So we added the buildings, and then we added the towns, and then we also identified the schools, those that we could easily tell by just remote mapping. They were also identified. And that was the contribution for the Youth Mappers in Uganda, and my colleague will talk more about that. And then Youth Mappers at large also in the US, the chapters in the United States of America also contributed through crowdsourcing. They engaged their local counties in creating response maps, yeah? We can imagine that at the time that the maps of the risk were more communicating the disease, the spread of the disease, than actually the maps of the resources in those environments. So this was the initiative for the Youth Mappers, say, how can we make the resources available? How can we be able to identify donations in the different environments to support the different communities? So this was one of the initiatives for the chapters in the US that sought for crowdsourced information, yeah? They would make the forms and then map it out and then avail it to the communities and the counties they worked with of local governments in their country to provide assistance to the different communities that were suffering, especially those that were very vulnerable. And then basically that was the contribution, but as Youth Mappers, we aim at global learning. We term ourselves as global citizens because as youth, we are earthlings, yeah? We belong to this earth, and then we should interact in a way that we understand the impacts of one another or the actions of one another and how we can help each other to move forward. We also believe in application of digital environments to solve challenges, and with the outbreak of COVID-19, it was very, very visible that this was one of the solutions to move forward. How do we use technology to support? How do we use technology to interact, to do business, to respond to crises like this? And then the sustainable development, where through data collection and the ability to use that data as the different youth in the different universities, you're contributing and making an impact to the economic development of one's state. And lastly, but the most important, is leadership. How can we be able to lead using technology? Yes, how can we be able to lead using open source geospatial technology in particular? So, and also build resilience in our communities. We become the voice, we encourage each youth to come up and be a voice for their community and impact their community using technology. And about youth mappers, yes, that's it. Thank you so much. I invite my colleague to talk about the project.
Mine will be quite brief because my senior has actually said it all. But I would like to share our project because basically that was what we did for the COVID period, given that most of the academic institutions had closed. And as you can all see, as Stella said, we are just part of a larger group of youth mappers, and we are called the Youth Mappers. We have about 120 members, and most of these, all of them are students. And what we majorly do is just to collect data voluntarily and to do humanitarian works, both at the local and international level. And this year, in about June, May, we were lucky to be awarded the micro grant from the humanitarian OpenStreetMap team after making a great partnership with Map Uganda. Then we were supposed to collect the different data that was going to be used by the national and humanitarian bodies at the front line so that we could create maps that would enhance the relief and risk management response on the COVID-19 pandemic. We identified our project after looking at a number of things. As you can see, the border towns were becoming crowded given the fact that the government had decided to close down everything. They have decided to bring in policies that were bringing a lot of crowds on the border towns. This enabled us to develop a very strong project, and we decided to identify the 25 borders, as Stella has said, and we completely mapped and validated these towns. Some of them were large, others were tiny, others had already the data mapped, but then we had to validate this data that we had to share and also to add value onto so that we could come up with something useful. We had to create data on the OpenStreetMap, which is an online platform. This online platform has data that anyone or any humanitarian organization can use, not only for relief, but also maybe for matters of finding out how many people are in an area and something like that. So what we did, we created and added buildings, roads, waterways, and we were doing this remotely. We only just provided data stipends for different members that were willing, and these people were very, very, very effective in adding this data. We actually had projected that the project will take about 4 months, but surprisingly, since everyone was home, people were very active, and in about 2 months, we are able to collect all this data that ideally we used, and we shared this data online, and you can also access it on the OpenStreetMap. Then later on, we had to use the open source data that we have, and we had to create different maps that we shared with the Uganda Red Cross and the Ministry of Health, since they're the local data users. But we also had to train a number of people. We had to train some few people on how to use the OSM, on how to use the QGIS to create maps, and a number of things like that. We designed online and static maps. They were just these were aiding the relief response and also the risk management, because since we had a total lockdown where no one was moving, so the government decided to supply food. So this was some of the data that could be used to know the number of people that are in an area, to know the roads, to know the access routes, to know everything. And this is what the maps could help. They could guide even the schools during now. They opened up the schools a few months ago, and this can help us to know the number of people that are in an area, Some schools need facilitation, like giving them the temperature guns. So all these are the maps that are being used by the different organizations that want to carry out such things. And we also shared our story we also shared our story on the YouTube. So anyone who wants to find out more about our project, you can follow our link and find out what we did. The social impact, first of all, like Stella said, we had to create about 2,000 buildings, 5,000 kilometers of roads, 323 kilometers of waterways. We added health centers, we mapped schools. So we also trained members. We had to recruit members. At least 14 were females, then 16 were males. So these were added onto our 120 members, So we are trying to make the network broad. We also inspired many members to learn the OSM. So we had to teach people OSM, how can we use OSM, how can it be of great use to the society and things like that. So we had to sell our story so that people can join us, and a number of people joined us, not only from Uganda, but also from different countries abroad that had to add to this data. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Stella and Wamala, for the interesting presentation. Really looks like the young people and the youth during the pandemic were found where their comparative advantages. So my question is, how is the data that you're collecting being used by the government? Because I see a lot of opportunities for this kind of data to inform decision making, not just for Red Cross and other partners, but also for government. So how much or what are the opportunities do you see government using this information and also integrating it in their systems for decision making and also for sustainability? Thank you.
Okay, let me answer that. Now, our data, like I said, we developed maps, and these maps can be used in numerous ways. Like the government decided to supply food to people that were seated at home, and these are maps that could guide, that because majorly we are mapping households and roads and health centers, maybe and schools. So this can be used to predict the number of people that are in an area, the number of the population, to know how much do we need, And even besides the COVID-19 pandemic, because this data is online and is always available to anyone out there, not only the Red Cross, but also the government, the different bodies that can use this data. They can use it to determine, even during, maybe we had landslides some years back. So this is the data that they can use to know the number of people that have been affected, the number of people that need to be given relief, that need to be transported from one area to be taken to another. This is just something that was created for humanitarian organizations and also for different ministries, for different bodies that can use this data in numerous ways. You can't actually, when you start counting the things that this data can be used for, they are very difficult to point out, because anyone can use it for anything that they want as long as it is governmental. Yeah, I think Stella can add on that.
Also, to add to what my colleague has said, is that OpenStreetMap is a platform to enhance socio-economic development. For example, planning, we look at a factor of planning, both economically and physically, physical planning. This is a platform that can be used or benchmarked to support or to enrich and enforce that planning is done and it's fulfilled by using this platform. And it's also a platform that can bring together a community. For whatever we do, we engage the community and they are part of the exercise. So as government, there will be less hindrance from the community as long as they are participating in whatever activity that is being done.
Wow, awesome. Thank you, Stella. Thank you, Wamala. I mean, you answered some of the questions that I was thinking about, but I guess my only other question would be, during your presentation, Stella, I heard you mention Africa, you mentioned the USA, but I didn't hear you mention within the Caribbean and Latin America. How can we get involved? I'm very excited to know.
Okay, so Youth Mappers is an open program. Yeah, it welcomes each and every student in the university. However, it's structured in a sense that each university should have a club or a chapter, we call them. Yeah, so there is a link. You can just say www.youthmappers.org, yeah, and then you can just scroll down and choose affiliate, yeah. Here for every university, the students, it doesn't matter, 2, 3, as long as they are those that are willing to be leaders for their champions, for champions of others in these universities, it's very okay. Youth Mappers welcomes affiliations. Students in a university may just choose to affiliate, yeah, to an organization that chooses to support the students, because the work these students must do is voluntary. It's on a voluntary basis that they contribute, but in return, they get the benefits like learning, yes, being the virtual citizens that they are, being able to tour all these environments virtually just on their computers. So there is so much to earn from it, and it is very open. Please just visit the website and then just affiliate, and you will receive all the information that you need.
Yeah, so great. So, I mean, for me, thank you very much for having me. Just to give a quick closing remark, I really enjoyed the presentations. It just goes to show how youth is resilient and how we innovate, don't matter the challenges, the crisis that we are being faced with. And, as young people, we are the leaders of today and tomorrow. And, just keep innovating, finding ways and innovative ways and means to feed ourselves, our communities, our country, our region, and our world. So thank you very much for having me, and look out for AgriMan on big screen near you sometime in the future.
This conference has so many amazing topics and sessions to explore, and not enough time, even with 16 hours. So throughout the day, we're actually going to be making some breakouts in which you can explore whether you want to go to one session or the other. Don't worry, everything on Whova will be able to be viewed after the fact, so you can still go and watch the other session too. In our first breakout block, make sure that you go directly to Whova to see the session and select the sub-session that you want to watch.